courage and wisdom is inside of me and has been all along, and inside of you and has been all along. Strength, courage, and wisdom. In fact, all the causes and conditions of happiness are inside of you. They're here, all of them, right now. The miracle of life in our bodies. Wow. Already, just take that in. Let us experience our aliveness right here, right now. Let's stop running after happiness in the future. The invitation of this day, of this message, is to cultivate one of the most precious things we have, which is our awareness and our presence. I saw a cartoon recently of a family riding on two camels. They were, there were about 7 people on 2 camels, somewhere in the Middle East, I assume, out in the desert. And the father's up there with 1 or 2 others of the kids, and on this camel, and there's some rolled up rugs and that kind of thing. And he's looking back at his daughter, who's on one of the camel behind them, and he's saying, "Stop asking if we're there yet. We're nomads, for crying out loud." And in a sense, we're all nomads. It's not so much that we're headed towards a destination in the future as it is that we need to learn how to be present and at home in whatever moment we're in along the way to whatever that future is that we imagine. I mean, how many people spend their lives anticipating something that they're waiting for in the future? We think to ourselves, things will be better once fill in the blank. I graduate. Things will be better once I pay off this debt. Once we have children. Once I get that promotion. Once this procedure is over. We often think, I'll start living my life then, when, instead of right now, right here, in this moment. Because we're all nomads, and we're all need to find a way to be at home wherever we are in any given moment. Now, I know that there are people who come to All Souls, and I can see they're writing their shopping list for after the service on the back of the program. Yes, I see you out there. I know who you are. Or making some notes, a little to-do list for later in the week. But I want to suggest that when we join together here on Sundays, that you use this, we all use this as an opportunity to be fully present. It's an incredible experience, and it's really a practice of being fully present. And just appreciate the time that we have, an hour or so together each week with live music, with kind people, there's nothing that you need to do. You don't need to perform. You don't need to meet any deadlines. You're safe for this one short hour, if nothing else, every week. You just have to show up and be present and take it in. Take in the experience. And it's an experience that our ministers, our musicians, and our staff have put together and created specifically for you, for your healing, to inspire you, to awaken you, to hopefully touch you in some way, to connect you to yourself, to connect you to others, and even to connect you to something larger than yourself. Maybe it's a vision of something. It's a sense of being connected to the interconnected web of all life, all people, all humanity. So I'm going to share this morning my 3 top reasons why I think we should cultivate the capacity for presence in our lives. So what I'm talking about is a quality of attention that is directly connected to our aliveness in this life. And one of my personal teachers, Jack Kornfield, who's a Theravadan Buddhist, he tells a story in his book, Awakening is Real, about how Carlos Castaneda's shaman teacher, Don Juan, took him out into the middle of the desert and just left him there for 2 days. He said to him before he left, "I'm taking you here and leaving you here in order to meet your ally." And he said, "We don't know what form it's going to take. It might be a bird. It might be a wild animal. It might sneak up on you from behind. It might be some kind of a spirit." Carlos was terrified. Do you think he was awake? Think he was paying attention? You bet he was. Now, many of us have that kind of an experience that shocks us awake to begin to look differently at our lives and our situations. Often it can be a tragedy or a diagnosis or an accident or a betrayal of some kind or some unexpected event, and suddenly we're thrust outside of our everyday routines, and suddenly we're starting to think a little differently, notice things a little differently in a whole new way. There's people in our lives and things that we're doing, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, I didn't even notice that or see that person or appreciate that, because we often will take things for granted. And the first reason that I'm offering for cultivating the capacity of awareness and presence and being here now is this idea of being able to see our life in a clearer way so that we don't just stay in some habits, in some routines, and kind of sleepwalk through our own life and just let our life pass us by and then get to the end of our life or get into a situation of some tragedy or some way in which our life has changed forever and go, oh my gosh, I just wasn't even paying attention. I was just going through the motions of my own precious, one incredible life. So my second favorite reason for cultivating presence is in order to accompany each other. What do I mean by that? Well, Catholic priest Henry Nouwen said, "The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness, that is a friend who truly cares." We need people in our lives who can sit with us when our life falls apart, when our life isn't going so great. Those who, they're not just trying to cheer us up. They're not just trying to put a bow on whatever it is that we're going through, but people who are comfortable enough just to be present, sometimes without saying a word, sitting in the muck and the pain and the mess of whatever our situation is. Have you ever experienced anyone showing up for you like that? It's incredibly powerful. Are you someone who can, I see you raising a hand, are you the kind of person that can show up for people like that? Because I want us to be those kind of people. Now, I learned this lesson on a very challenging day when I was serving as a chaplain intern in the hospital when I was in training to become a minister. I was called to the emergency room one day, and I found a young wife in a blood-stained shirt whose husband had just used a gun to take his life. And I had no magic words. I had no idea what to say to this woman. What I soon came to realize was how powerful it is to stand before another human being in a time of anguish, bearing our true humanity, stripped clean of any pretense. It is the most humbling and powerful experience that I have over and over again as a minister over these past 25 years. In that one instance, early in my ministry, in my training, when I was called to provide support for this woman whose husband had just committed suicide, she was in hysterics, completely beside herself. And upon seeing me, she immediately asked, "Are you a priest?" And when I answered her, she asked if I could call a priest. I felt both inadequate and relieved. What was great for me was to watch the priest comfort her. He came right up to her side and he showed incredible compassion. He listened to her tell her story. He wasn't afraid of long silences. And he seemed able to show that he really cared and he was really there, feeling it with her. What I realized was that he didn't have any special words either. He was just willing to sit and share in her pain and confusion. A lot of us, we just want to run away from a situation like that. So it's so precious when somebody is willing to just sit in it with us. We don't feel so alone. Now, being a priest, he was quickly called to something else because there's so many things going on in the hospital. And so it was up to me then to provide support over the next 7 hours as the hospital staff kept her husband alive so that the rest of the family could come in and say their final goodbyes. And by the end of that day, I found a true appreciation for the power of just being present, just showing up. There's no ordination required. You don't even need strength, courage, or wisdom. Just need to be yourself. Be human in that kind of moment. And to have faith that your amazing presence is enough. We just need to be willing to face our shared vulnerability. I think that's why we're so scared of actually showing up in those moments and staying there and feeling it, because we know this could be me sometime. This could happen to me. It's just hard to bear that. But then when we realize how amazing it is to have somebody sit with you, we realize how important that is and how important our presence is in people's lives. To just our willingness to face our common humanity in this life. Now, if you can do that, you can bless anyone, anywhere, in any situation. Imagine. So I hope you will never have to experience anything as tragic as I described in that story, but I want you to be a person who has that kind of presence. A person who has that kind of faith in your ability to meet any situation that could happen in this life. We never know what life is going to throw at us or when it's going to happen. And so having a faith like this it's not about having a faith like you often hear religious people talking about. If you have a faith and you follow the right principles and you do everything right and you're pious and you read your Bible or whatever that is, that if you do all those things, then good things will happen. Only good things will happen to you. Not that kind of faith. I don't talk about that kind of faith. I don't believe in that kind of faith. They even have now, it's if you give enough money to the church, then you'll be rich. I wish I could preach that because we get a lot more money, I imagine, into the church, but I don't believe it. So this kind of faith is about knowing that in this wildly unpredictable, uncertain world of ours, you have what it takes to meet the moment, whatever that moment requires of you. And it's not just you alone. It's also that there are the faith, the trust that there are other people around, like the priest in my story, who will show up for us and help us when we can't carry the load or know what to do. It is a faith that in the love that is within us and around us at all times. That's the kind of faith I want us all to walk through the world with and to share with others. I'm inviting you to cultivate that kind of faith in yourself, that you have the power to bear witness with love and with grace anything that can happen in this life. To cultivate in yourself that you can carry the emotional burden of being in relationship with someone else's suffering, including your own. That's a faith. That faith is courageous love. Truly courageous love. And it's already here, inside of you, right here, right now. All we have to do is to be aware of it. Now, the third reason that I believe we should cultivate the capacity for awareness and presence is freedom. The more we cultivate presence of mind, the less controlled we are by our compulsions, our addictions, our patterns, and our habits. Self-awareness gives us the capacity to choose. It gives us the power to decide how we want to respond to whatever's happening to us. It's been called the greatest human freedom, the freedom to choose how we want to respond in any given situation. We can cultivate a pause or a poise when something happens, whatever it is, before we immediately respond. You know, it's cultivating that pause, to that self-awareness to go, oh, I'm triggered right now. Oh, my blood is boiling in anger. I just want to punch somebody instead of punching the wall or punching somebody. To recognize, wow, I'm scared. I'm shaking right now. So it's about living with this sort of dual consciousness, if you will, of something's happening and I'm aware that something's happening. It's probably going on right now. You're both listening to me and you're aware that you're listening to me. It's that kind of dual consciousness in these high moments of our lives when we can just get sucked right into whatever's going on and then lose ourselves. And then afterward be like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. It's about finding ways, presence and awareness, about finding ways to expand that pause and that poise so that we get to choose. There's so much in our lives that we do not have control over, that it's just wonderful to begin to learn how to take some control over that which we do. And we do have control over how we respond. But it does take practice in order to do that. So that we can meet the moment in curiosity. Oh, wow, look at that. Look at how I'm shaking. Look at that. Look at my blood's boiling. Look at that. This vein's popping on my neck, whatever that is. But to be aware of it and then to think, how do I want to deal with this? Do I need to take a little walk? Do I need to take some breaths? What do I need to do so that I can show up how I want to show up, not get sucked in by someone else's craziness or someone else's anger or someone else's whatever they're bringing or trying to instigate. No, I'm not going to take the bait because I now have taken control because I have that awareness, that dual consciousness. That's a high level of spiritual understanding, and I think it's something that we all should aspire to grow into. Now, what happened to me a few days ago, I happen to have a brand new car. Maybe you've seen that for the last 3 months. And I've been enjoying having a new car. So it's a great thing, isn't it? I mean, if you've ever had a new car, it runs great. I love it. I wake up and I go, look at that. Go walk out and I go, look, it looks so nice. There's not a scratch, not a ding, Just looks fantastic. I don't want anyone else to drive my car because I don't want anyone else to scratch it or bump it or do it. I'm just like, man, I just like having this new looking car. And it's been a while since I've had a brand new car. This is great. I'm just loving every minute of it. And then Thursday night, when I was backing out of a parking space, I was surprised to hear the sound of scrape. It was this loud kind of scraping noise that seemed like I couldn't figure out what it was. So I hopped out and I looked at, hoping that it was just something a little under the bumper kind of thing. And I found a really large dent in the front and scratches all across the front, one corner of the front end of my brand new, beautiful, lovely car. And I was livid. You haven't seen me livid. You've seen me worked up about some Oklahoma politics or something like that, but you haven't really seen me live. I was I was back in the car swearing and yelling and banging the steering wheel. I was so mad. My careless mistake, something I could have avoided. Here I was. I finally have this nice new car that I've been enjoying looking at, and my night was ruined. I was, at that point, I was just settled into being miserable for the rest of the evening. It wasn't what I had planned, and perhaps I was going to be PO'd for a couple of days. I was going to have to go out and look at that every morning. My mistake. And what choice did I really have? It happened, and it was a new car. It was something I had done that I could have avoided. But then I had one of those moments of awareness, and I found myself thinking, well, this is not how I expected to spend this evening. And then I thought, who says I have to be miserable and grumpy for the next 3 days? It's not going to fix my car. It's not going to change anything about this situation. So I made a conscious choice to be grateful for what I had. And I'd already messed up my car. Why mess up my whole night? And I was able to shift. So I'm 1 for 1 now in this. So yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm not saying I'm enlightened or anything. But I'm just realizing it's just such a nicer way to live. To just be like, oh yeah, I don't have to be all mad, even though it's upsetting. Because life is both too long and too short to spend not being in control of how we want to respond to the many things that happen to us and the whims of other people and the unexpected events of life. So that's why I'm encouraging us to be here now as often as we can so that we don't take for granted the incredible blessings of our life and the people around us while we still have this life and our health and all the other things that we may be blessed to have. And also so that we can witness other people's suffering, so we can be the kind of person that can show up and that we can walk through the world with a sense of confidence and faith or trust or whatever you want to call it, to say, whatever does happen, because we never know what or when, but whatever it is, I have faith that I can handle it, that between my presence and capacity and the other people that I'm around in my life and just trusting the universe itself, that I can get through. That's a nice way to be in the world. And it begins with presence. And then also just the freedom to choose our reactions, no matter what the situation, so we won't get baited and pulled into lots of other things and end up showing up in a way that doesn't feel like who we want to be and how we want to spend our time and our life. So the way that I've been cultivating this is that I've been doing some meditation practice, about 20 minutes on average every morning I've been consistent for about 1.5 years. You may have even noticed that I'm more present. I hope you've noticed. But I feel more present, more available perhaps. But imagine what our lives and what our world would be like if more people practiced and developed this kind of presence and this kind of awareness. So I want us to focus on this, as one of the things we focus on for this year, for ourselves and for our world, is this kind of presence. And I hope that you'll come on Sundays and be a part of what we're doing and recognize that our ministers and our musicians are crafting an experience for you every week that we hope will inspire you, will heal you, will awaken you to life's beauty, and will add value to your life, while you're still here. And I'd like to suggest that you do someone a favor by inviting somebody at some point to come with you to this place. Because if the person who comes discovers the magic of All Souls and what we're about, there's so many people I meet who say, I had no idea this place was here. I could have used this 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I could have used this when I got divorced, or I could have used this when I had kids. And they just don't even know that we have this wonderful community and opportunity. And so I'm just saying, if you do get an opportunity to invite somebody, if that person finds, they connect with what we're doing, they will thank you for the rest of their life. You will be changing their life for the better. And that's something that's pretty special. And I hope that you'll consider doing that for somebody and for all of us, because you'll be making our community better at the same time. So with that, I just want to say, welcome home. Thanks for being here, being present now, and I hope to see you throughout this new church year in the Sundays to come. Thank you.
So